Welcome to the House on the Roof of the World, a poignant, powerful and uplifting story of one woman's determination to exorcise her demons and find love again. Tibet has always intrigued me. A land of mystery, a land of geographical magnificence, of unique cultures and colourful history. So much so that I actually studied a master's degree in Tibetan music at Sheffield University. The people of Tibet have also interested me, their plight very much close to my heart. I've always had great admiration for their non-violent stance against oppression and their determination to retain their cultural identity despite attempts to consign it to history. So it's little wonder that my love for the country has found its way into my writing. The House on the Roof of the World is a film about one woman's determination to reclaim her life following a traumatic event which saw the murder of her father and the destruction of her home by occupying Chinese forces in the early days of Chairman Mao's so-called liberation of Tibet. As such, it has great contemporary relevance and parallels, where scores of fathers, as well as other family members, are losing their lives to Putin's war of aggression and conquest in Ukraine. The film is, at its heart, a story of love and compassion. We live in a world where messages of non-violent protest are often silenced and therefore ignored by brutal aggression. This can be seen in totalitarian regimes all around the world, where peaceful democratic protests frequently result in unwarranted arrest, imprisonment, torture, and even death. The Tibetan protest has always been one of love, compassion, and non-violence, in line with the Buddhist doctrine. Rather than engage in battle, millions of Tibetans have left their home in order to protest peacefully around the world, to tell their story and raise awareness to their plight. This film adds weight to that voice. Revenge is a global concern. In war, participants, be they nations, terrorist groups or individuals, justify further acts of violence by stating that they are in retaliation for the violent deeds of their enemy. In the end, the only thing that's achieved is bloodshed on one side and a loss of humanity on the other. Indeed, there's a Chinese proverb which states that before setting out on revenge, you should first dig 2 graves. In the film, despite the abhorrent deeds done to her and her father, our heroine, Sonam, is determined to redress the balance of things without recourse for revenge or further bloodshed. By rebuilding her family home, she tries to reclaim something which was taken from her and recapture control of her feelings, culture, and destiny. She doesn't seek the blood of those who wronged her. Instead, she begins to see that love is the way to illuminate the darkened life imposed on her by the Chinese. Through rebuilding her house, she also starts to rebuild her relationship with her young son, Norbu. And her heart is enlightened further when she starts to fall in love with a monk, Sangye, who has escaped the destruction of his monastery and is following His Holiness the Dalai Lama to India. The monk then has to decide where his duty and destiny rests, in his faith or in his love. We're living through trying times, a time when hope seems to be in the shadow of fear. In the wake of the COVID pandemic, the war in Ukraine, political instability and the cost of living crisis, we're all in need of a good, feel-good story. A humble story that's a reminder of the strength of the human spirit. The House on the Roof of the World is just that story. an ultimately uplifting film to bring a little hope to the world at a time when it's most needed. As the film industry continues to diversify its demographics, The House on the Roof of the World contains a strong female lead in the cast of underrepresented ethnic minorities, and we're delighted that award-winning Tibetan singer Yongchen Lhamo has agreed to add her hauntingly beautiful voice to our soundtrack. Now, clearly we will be unable to film in Tibet. However, we've been working with a production company in Morocco where we plan to film next year. Now, the country has a unique landscape which is a perfect substitute for the Tibetan Plateau and the Himalayas. We'd be following in the footsteps of the great Martin Scorsese, who filmed his epic Kundun, the fabulous film about the early life of the Dalai Lama, in Morocco. This will be our third film, following on from our award-winning short film, The Beachcombers, and the follow-up short film, Our Little Boat, which is currently in production. We're planning to use a skeleton crew to keep costs down, but also to foster a close-knit environment on set. The crew also derive from an area of the UK that is underrepresented and deemed to be economically deprived. Thus, we'll be giving exposure and opportunity to those who may not always have the access to such chances to showcase their excellence and talents. Both of our previous short films were made on a micro budget, and we have learned how to manage our time and resources through extensive planning and preparation to ensure that each pound invested in this project stretches further. Heading our photography is our award-winning cinematographer David Stafford, while our music will be composed and recorded by award-winning composer Whippet, and I will direct. We also want the film to have some tangible results for some of the communities represented in the story. As such, I've pledged to contribute a percentage of my own return of the profits from the film to the One Drop of Kindness charity, which helps with projects that supply clothing, educational supplies and prosthetics to displaced and disaffected Tibetans around the world. The story is ultimately one of hope. Hope for a better future, hope for a peaceful future, and hope for a world where love and compassion is the final word. And this is a film for our time, fusing decades-old issues with ongoing struggles that we face today. It's important that this message is communicated to as wide an audience as possible. And that is why we are seeking funding to ensure that we can produce this key film. Please help by making an investment via our Indiegogo crowdfunding site or directly to us at Kakapo Arts. The bank details will be shown at the end of this video. Thank you for your interest in helping to make this film a reality.